Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we're going to talk about what-ifs. We're going to talk about what-ifs when it comes to the 6th. Because in a recent video, I said something to the effect of, well, great, you captured the building, now what? It's about as important as a Walmart. And there were a number of people who questioned that. And the one part of it that really got my attention was somebody who said, are you saying that it's just absolutely impossible for a coup to occur in the United States? Definitely not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you can't initiate a self-coup in the United States by the seizure of Congress. It will not work. It won't work. So a self-coup is it's when a person who is in office attempts to stay through extra legal means and just take over. In the U.S., this is difficult to begin with. For this to work, for a self-coup to work, it has to happen quickly and it has to happen without conflict. If conflict starts, it spreads like wildfire. And there's no way to know that the person who initiated the self-coup would remain in power. So at that point, it's just up in the air. When wannabe dictators try to engage in a self-coup, the key part is that it has to happen quickly and quietly. It can't start with something that tips everybody off to knowing that something is wrong. If that occurs, the whole process breaks down. The reason a self-coup initiating in this fashion in the U.S. just would not work, part of it has to do with civics. It has to do with how the U.S. government is structured just naturally with the different levels of government. And then it also has a whole lot to do with the fact that since 1945, the U.S. government has been structured, the federal government has been structured in such a way that it would continue to function if D.C. disappeared in a flash of light. There's a lot of continuity of government plans. So, starting off with something that clearly and openly says this is not part of the U.S. Constitution. This is something that is going to provoke outrage among some people. It won't work because there's a giant list of people that have to be in on it for it to function. We're going to start with that list. Most people know that if the president goes, the vice president is now in charge. A lot of people know that next is the Speaker of the House. Fewer know that the next is somebody in the Senate. Even fewer know that after that, it becomes Secretary of State, Treasury, Defense, the Attorney General, Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Agriculture, Commerce, Labor, Health and Human Services, Housing and Urban Development, Treasury, Energy, Veterans Affairs, and finally, Homeland Security. All of those people have to be in on it. If there is one break in this group, that person becomes the new de facto leader of the federal government. They become a rallying point. And then it's not quickly, so it fails. It doesn't work, or it turns into conflict. After this list, they need at least a majority on the Supreme Court to be in their pocket. Then they have to have the Joint Chiefs, all of them. And after that, they have to have the commander of every single command. Because if one of them doesn't go along with it, it initiates that conflict. Then you need the governors. And then if you have all the governors, you also have to have all of the National Guard commanders for the various states. There's a lot to it. To try to do it the way it may have been tried, it wouldn't have worked. I'm not saying it wouldn't have gone bad, but he wouldn't have succeeded. That's the United States is very resilient in this regard because the federal government was structured to survive a nuclear attack. And because the U.S. Constitution does have a lot of separation of powers. And because we have a federal system with various levels of government. Understand, even in a state where the governor decides to go along with it, those at the county level may not. Initiating something like this through force that is very public, it won't work. And then I know the next question from somebody would be something along the lines of, well, what if they just don't care and they use the military to impose their rule? I mean, sure, but let's assume that the entire military, everybody goes along with it, every single person. They don't have the troops. They don't have the numbers. We have talked about the number of people that it would take to occupy the United States on this channel before. The numbers just don't exist. If you were to call up everybody, they just don't exist. It's not plausible to do it the way some people might have attempted. It wouldn't work. But that doesn't mean that the United States is coup-proof. Just a self-coup initiated through this means. It wouldn't happen. The outrage would be too much, and it would initiate a conflict. So those who are in the sedition caucus, the MAGA crowd, who were talking about how they could have won, even if they had taken the building, they wouldn't have won. So there is one benefit to the just giant maze that exists, that is the U.S. government as a whole. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.